All right, all right, all right. So, good evening, everyone. Hope everybody had a great day. I know I did. Been teaching all day. But for those who are new, my name is John Williams. I am the owner of Infinite Social Solutions. Do IT consultant, IT training, social media management, and a whole host of other things. So, for the new people, welcome. If you've been to one of my live streams before, welcome back. Tonight's live stream is about preventing spam emails. So, I'll be going over that, be explaining what spam emails are, how you get spam emails, and how to also prevent spam emails. So, as you are listening and or watching, if you have any questions, please post your question in the chat. I will do my best to answer all the questions that you guys ask. So, without further ado, we shall go ahead and begin the presentation. All right. So, there are a few things that I want to go over and clarify before we get deep into it, specifically about your email address and also spam emails. Okay. So, one thing to keep in mind is that your email address, you do not own your email address, it is not yours. Okay. Unless you have purchased your own domain and set up email through your domain. Outside of that, the email address that you have, so that AOL.com, that Yahoo.com, that um, Office365.com, that Outlook.com, Gmail.com, whatever it may be, if you don't own that domain, that email address is not yours. That email address is owned by the entity that owns that domain. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right? Even though you signed up for their service, you do not own that domain. Okay, it's not like you can, or well, you don't own that email address. So it's not like you can pick up and take that email address with you. They are providing a free service. That free service is an email address on that entity's domain. All right, keep that in mind. Um, Another thing to keep in mind as well is that spam emails. Okay, so email is like electronic mail, right? So think of spam emails as the junk mail that you get, your physical mail that you get in your mailbox. So all those coupons, um, all the letters from credit card companies, um, that is junk email. In the digital sense, that is spam email because you did not reach out to them and they're not responding to you through a letter, right? So they got your address, right? So let's think of your home address. They got your physical address from somewhere. Whether it be that, back in the day, they would just go through the phone book and just copy down all the addresses because the assumption is that if you're in the phone book and there's a phone number, there's an address attached to it, you're the person that's at that address. They would just write that address down and send you mail, right? So for the most part now, every address is somewhere in a database, right? So they'll just download, copy, paste all the addresses and send letters and junk mail to those addresses. Same thing kind of applies to email addresses as well. However, the way um, that these companies or in the hackers as well, the way they come across your email address, there's several different methods um, that happen um, for them to get a hold of your email address. All right. So just give me a moment here while I bring up the presentation. And also, again, if you have any questions, please um, feel free to put those questions into the chat and I will answer as many questions as I can. Computer's been running all day. It's a little hot, so it's running a little slow. So bear with me, please. All right. We are good to go. All right. So prevent spam email. So first, what is spam email? All right. So a spam email is an unsolicited or unwanted email message that is sent in bulk to a large number of recipients, typically for commercial or fraudulent purposes, right? So like I did in the opening, I explained that just like in the physical world, those letters you get in your mailbox, those coupons, um, they're coming from a company business trying to sell you something, trying to get you to sign up for a credit card, whatever it be, right? But then you also get those suspicious letters. They're few and far between now, but before the internet was a big thing, you would get random letters saying that you won money in the sweepstakes, or one of the most common ones that even show up in emails is that some prince in some foreign country was somehow related to you, and they left you all this money, and they need you to send them a check to be able to send you this money, right? Or they need your information uh, in order for you to send this money, right? No, that's the fraudulent purpose. These emails are often sent without the consent of the recipients and can contain various types of content, such as advertisements, promotions, scams, phishing attempts, or malware. Spam emails are typically sent by spammers who obtain email addresses through various means, including purchasing lists, harvesting them from websites or online forums, or using automated software to generate random email addresses. Okay, so and I'll be going over all of what was just listed. Okay. The primary goal of sending spam emails is usually to make money or obtain personal information from unsuspecting recipients. Spam emails can be easily identified by their characteristic traits, such as generic greetings, poorly written content, spelling and grammatical errors, requests for personal information, and suspicious attachments or links. It is generally advised not to interact or respond to spam emails, as doing so can potentially lead to further spam, scams, or security risks. Most email providers have built in spam filters that help to automatically detect and redirect spam emails to spam or junk folders, keeping your inbox cleaner and safer. All right. So before I go any further, um, I'm going to give a real example of a situation that happened at a company that I worked for, where we were company wide. There was actually wasn't company wide at first, but there were some employees that were sent a spam email. Okay, so I believe during, if memory serves me correct, during this time, this was when ransomware became really prevalent. There were a lot of companies getting hit by ransomware. There were actual cities that were held under siege for weeks because of ransomware. But this case in particular, I experienced firsthand. So at this company, I worked on the help desk. So we got calls all day, every day. Uh, with IT related things. So this was first thing in the morning. Sitting at my desk. One of the first calls I get, employee at the company. She calls. She said she clicked this. She got an email. She clicked the link in the email, and she was pretty, for the most part, uh, worried that she had done something wrong. Unbeknownst to her at the time, she had done something that was extremely wrong. So what ended up happening is she clicked the link, and she was saying that her files were locked on her computer, and she was not able to get into her files, which meant that whatever was in that link, there was some malware that infected her computer. Now, with her computer having been connected to the network, because the only way that she would have been able to get an email is if her computer, or email to the work email, was that if her computer was actually connected to the domain. Okay. So being that her computer was connected to the domain and she clicked the link and allow the malware to affect her computer, uh, that malware was also able to get onto the network and infect other computers as well without people having to um, click on the link. She basically opened the door for that malware to affect the network, right? So the network computers that were connected, not all, but a lot, enough. The uh, computers, also other computers, also got infected with the ransomware, right? So, for those that are not familiar with ransomware, ransomware is malware, and what it does is it infects the computer. It encrypts every file on that computer. It doesn't matter what that file is. It could be the most innocent file on your computer. Every file on your computer, even desktop icons and shortcuts, become locked out and encrypted, right? The only way to unencrypt them or unlock them is that the perpetrator would have to provide the key to unlock all the files, right? So the purpose of ransomware, the um, the hackers or the people behind the ransomware. The idea is they infect a business and their computers, lock out all the files. They contact the business, say, "Hey, you know, we're the ones that sent the ransomware. If you don't pay us $2 million, um, we're going to keep your files locked. You're not going to be able to get your files back." In some cases, um, depending on how malicious they want to be, since they have control of the files, they can wipe out a system completely as well. But in most cases, they just leave the files locked and walk away from the situation, hoping that they get the money. But if they don't care, because that company has to go through the problem of unencrypting those files, right? So, clicked on the email, network got infected, IT department got they got an email saying that that files were being held under the ransomware. The perpetrators wanted money. Okay, so luckily, uh, the IT department that I worked for, they were intelligent enough to have everything on every computer for the most part, um, backed up, a backup somewhere, right? So pretty much all they had to do was there was one server that had everything, and that was a backup of that server. So the backup didn't get infected, but the main server did. So basically, all they had to do was shut down the main server, bring up the backup server, and everything was fine. All the important information that was there, right? And Sean, thanks for joining. I'll get to your question here in a second. So, so what happened was, so we were cool. We were in the green at that point. That the IT department got everything up and running again in less than 24 hours. They did it so quick; it really didn't affect business completely. We were only down for maybe like an hour and a half, because we had some experienced IT people. So, um, not even a day, day and a half later, I don't get the call, but the lady calls again. She gets another email, clicks on the email, ransomware again. Okay. Um, because of that incident, a lot of policies changed um, within the company. All right. She eventually was let go because she potentially could have cost the company millions and millions of dollars and a lot of personal information, especially um, medical information, could have been lost and or stolen. That was the um, that was the big thing, because there was a lot of personal information, but there was a medical information attached to that stuff as well. But she got let go. The company then created a policy that basically there wasn't no three strike rule. Um, if that incident happened again, they would actually just weigh how serious it was. In her case, what happened with that incident is an automatic fire, right? But they also put some training in place, a lot of training. They would actually send out a dummy email every so often to see who would click on the link and who wouldn't. Um, People still clicked on the link, but not as many as time went on, because people were properly trained to know how to spot a spam email, what to do when they came across a spam email. So very important. But that was a real life situation that I witnessed firsthand through all of the various stages of what happens. Um, Sometimes some companies aren't lucky like that. They don't have their stuff backed up, so they either lose everything or they have to pay millions of dollars to recover that information. But real life story, real life example. Just wanted to share that with you. Uh, so now, what I'm going to go over now are the different ways you get spam email. A lot of the reasons why you get spam email are through passive means. So you don't necessarily have to have done anything, like clicked on a link or um, anything like that. A lot of times, your email address is being saved somewhere that doesn't have proper protection, right? So, in the early days of spam emails, the way that these hackers would go about gathering that information, they would email harvest. Even reputable companies would do the same. So, email harvesting is basically they would use a computer program to just scour websites or scour the internet for email addresses, right? That's all they were looking for, was just the email address, right? So they have this program that automatically does that, you know, downloads, saves all the email addresses to like a spreadsheet or a file or something like that, and they just have um, this database full of email addresses that they can use, they can trade, they can sell it to another company, so on and so forth, right? But that once they have these email address collected, they'll decide what they're going to do with it, right? So, second bullet point, um, purchase a shared list. So once the emails are harvested, um, then whoever has the emails, they can decide to sell it to someone, sell it to a company, sell it to an advertiser, sell it to hackers, or they can also share it as well too, or trade, which is more common now. They can trade it with someone else's list. Like you could have a list of 300 email addresses, and then someone has a list of 200 million email addresses, right? And those are all unique. So they can trade back and forth and exponentially increase the number of emails they have just by trading. So as the email list grows, the more valuable that list becomes. So if I end up having 600 email addresses, that's a very valuable list. So I would even consider selling it at that point, right? So once they've gathered all these emails, what they'll start doing, which is our third bullet point, they'll start with phishing attacks. Okay, so phishing attacks happen primarily through email and through spam emails as well. So phishing, what that is that if you they'll send out an email, um, and I'll actually uh, more than, more than likely the phishing attempt is a that's when they're doing things through malicious means, right? So you'll get an email that you think is from a company that you're familiar with, right? So a uh, common one would be PayPal. So you'll get the spam email, and they'll say they are sending you this email through PayPal. They need you to click the link to log into your account because there may be something wrong with your account, right? So most people, uh, they are either unaware of phishing attacks. They don't read the email carefully, and all they see is PayPal. So they and the email will also have PayPal's logos in it to make it look um, somewhat authentic, right? So they'll go in, click on the link. The link is takes them to a web page. Web page is asking for um, you to log in, right? Everything looks legit, right? Um, and you log and in most cases, nothing happens. You try to log in with your username and password, and then nothing happens after that. Some cases they may have a fake page after that login to make you think that you've actually logged into your account when you haven't, right? So just with that phishing attempt through that email, you have just handed over your email address and your password for your PayPal account. So imagine they send out millions and millions of these emails, and you know, hopefully they're hoping they get millions and millions of logins. But even if they get 1,000 logins, that's 1,000 people now that they could just go into their account and wipe out their account before those people even know. So that is the purpose of the phishing attacks, and they come in different um, shapes and forms, but they all serve the same purpose, right? Um, Another way of how you get spam emails, malware infections, right? So just like in the example that I gave earlier about my old job, the malware can infect the computer, and the computer that malware can be an email harvester, right? Um, a, a common one is there's malware out there that specifically looks for like Outlook accounts and things like that. So if you have Outlook installed on your computer, it'll attack Outlook and go through your address book um, and pretty much harvest all the contacts in your address book so that the hacker can take that information and in some cases send out emails as you, right? So they'll send out those phishing emails under your email address, which makes it even more legit, right? Because the people that are being emailed believe that it's you emailing them this information, this link or what have you, to keep or to continue to spread that malware. And in cases like that, things can get out of hand real quick. That email that you send to 10 people, that's 10 people that get infected. Those people get infected, so on and so forth, and it snowballs and it can get out of hand real quick. That's why it's really important that you do not open any files attached to an email that you are unsure of its origin. Okay. Um, the next one, online surveys and contests. This one is my favorite one for the simple fact that people know, and some may not know, but most people know that they are willingly giving um, their information away. And one of the best examples is on social media, especially on Facebook, when people take or click on the link for those quizzes and things like that. You know, those funny quizzes. Um, I tell people all the time, like, stop doing that, right? Um, because you may not notice it, but in the terms of service, when you go and click on that link and do that little quiz or do that online survey, in the terms of service, they have in there, I'm pretty sure they have a clause in there somewhere, if they're legit, because some of these companies are legit, but they will have something in the terms of service or the terms of agreement that say that, you know, once you sign up to do this quiz or take the survey, that the information you give them is theirs and they can do what they want with it, right? To a certain extent because of the laws, right? Now, if it was a malicious company, then they don't care. They're going to take your information and do whatever they want with it, right? But that's one way you end up getting spam emails is because you're willingly giving those people that uh, spam emails, you're willingly giving you that information. So you can't be upset when you go to your inbox and you got 100 spam emails in your inbox. Like, you gave them that information and they took that information and sold it to someone else or traded it to another company. And now all of those other companies are emailing you now, sending you emails, right? So you can't be upset. I I've had people come and I asked them, did they ever do any online surveys? And they're like, yes. And I'm like, well, that's your fault. You know, I can't help you at this point because you let the burglars in. You opened the door. Like, you were warned, right? But that's my favorite one because people swear they didn't do anything to cause the problem, and then I ask a few questions to find out that they in fact are the cause of their problem. So, but be aware of that. Subscription and opt-in forms. Um, those again, um, a reputable company will give you the option to opt out when you sign up for a subscription and stuff like that. But even still, in the fine print, they are collecting your data. Especially with like phone apps and things like that. Now, by law, they have to tell you what type of data they need access to in order for your for that app to run on your phone, right? If you don't accept, um, if you don't accept, then you can't use the app. So that's kind of way how they trick you, or pretty much force you or pigeonhole you into turning over your information. Is that if you want to use this app, we need access to this information, right? They can't sell that information by law, especially in California. California, they can get in a lot of trouble for selling your information. But there's nothing that um, says that they can't trade, right? Because the information is specifically personal information, right? So, if you were here at the very beginning when I was explaining that your email address is, you don't own your email address. So your email address by itself is not technically personal information, right? So, because there's, unless you put your name and date of birth and the email address, it's still not personal information. That's why they tell you not to create an email address with that information. Nowadays they tell you not to. Back in the day they didn't. But your email address alone is not something that can identify you specifically, right? Even if your name is in the email address, that email address means nothing almost if it's not attached to some other personal information. Okay. So if there's a name and an email address, in most cases that becomes personal information. Okay. Um, and then the more information you include with that email address, the more likelihood that it becomes personal information, right? So if you have your name and email address, that in most cases is considered personal information. But if there's an email address and or if there's an email address and a date of birth, that in some cases is considered personal information, right? But if there's just a date of birth That's not personal information. That's just the date at that point, because there are no other identifiers to say whose date of birth that is specifically. Okay, just keep that in mind. But the more information you add to the email address, the more information that's accompanied with it, then at that point it becomes personal information. Like if you add an address, phone number, um, and things like that. Once you combined all that information, then it becomes personal information, because you can use all of that information to find a specific person. Okay, so always keep that in mind. Now, one of the ways, or the most prominent way that uh, we get spam emails is through data breaches, right? So these data breaches are happen because of the phishing attacks and the malware infections, right? Or some other means that the hackers hacked into a company's server and actually went in and stole that information. So, what I'd like to remind people, or tell people, and make them aware, um, is that at this stage in the game, um, with so many companies having been hacked over the years, um, your information is out there. Some hacker hacker group, they have our information, right? So at this point, um, there's little that you can do to prevent them, or there's little you can do about that. Once they have your information, there's not much you can do at that point, right? Unless you just change everything, get a new email address, get a new phone number, and all that stuff. Unless you do a complete overhaul and change everything, they have your information, right? At that point, it's just being educated, knowing what to do in the event that they use your information for a malicious purpose, like open bank accounts in your name, get credit cards in your name, so on and so forth. Uh, it's better to know how to stop it when it happens, because um, to be completely honest, it's gonna happen, right? It may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow, it may not happen next year, but there's a chance that it could happen. But just educate yourself and know what to do when it does happen, right? But these data breaches, they get so much information, um, especially if they a bank. When a bank gets hacked, it's pretty much a done deal. They've got almost everything they need. I think they may even have so much information that they got your social security number as well too, right? But unfortunately, there's nothing you can do until they try to use that information for some malicious purpose. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, let me know in the chat. Um, Now, this is an old school way um, of how they get emails and things like that, but the reply all or chain emails. I haven't really seen any emails at all in the last decade or more. They were really prevalent early on in the life of the internet, especially um, when AOL was big. I remember getting emails that had been forwarded hundreds of times that had probably thousands of emails attached to them. So what happens in the email chain is that one person is sent an email saying that if they don't send this email to 10 people, something bad's going to happen to them, right? So that hackers use they're using social engineering to trick you into thinking that something bad's going to happen if you don't send this email, which in itself, if you think about it, is real ridiculous. Like, what is possibly going to happen if you don't send this email, right? But you send an email to 10 people because you don't want anything bad to happen. Send the same email to 10 people. Those 10 people feel the same way. They're like, oh, I need to send this to 10 people so something bad doesn't happen, right? So those 10 people send 10 emails, so on and so forth. And it can grow and grow and grow. But what ends up happening is that the person that forwards you the email, they also have their email included in that group. So they're getting the email as well. And then what happens sometimes too is that you may be re-forwarded that same email, and you know, God forbid, you're that type of person that just believes those chain letters. You send to 10 more people again. So you've just sent all these people the same email. But that's another way that these people get emails. And back in the day, it was simple. You don't see them too often now, but it happened a lot. And that's one of the way that they get the emails. All right. All right. So before we get into preventing spam emails, just want to go back. Let's go back. All right. And so one thing I wanted to talk about now, when you, let's say for instance, you sign up for a website like Target, right? So Target, they're a reputable um, uh, retailer, and I'm just using it as an example. So you sign up for an account with Target, okay? Sign up for an account. They give you the option to opt in to get coupons, newsletters, things of that nature sent to your email address, right? You decide not to opt into that, but continue to fill out the account information to create an account. So you have an account created, but you told Target for them not to send you emails, right? So Target can't send you an email. However, they can definitely take your email, right, and give it or trade it to an advertising company, right? So if you haven't noticed that you may have signed up for an account with a retailer, but somehow um, and you did not click the box that says you want email updates and things like that, but somehow you still end up getting emails from them, right? So, and I have an example of that I can show you in a bit. But what ends up happening is you still get an email from Target. But if you look at who sent the email, 9 times out of 10, it's an advertising agency that's sending you that email on Target's behalf. And this is how the retailers get around. It's a loophole. It's you're being sent that email on their behalf, right? They traded your email to somebody, and with the agreement that they would send targeted emails to you, right? So that's how Target, they didn't send you the email. They did not send you email. However, when you signed up for the account, you, unbeknownst to you, even though it's probably in the terms of service or the terms and agreements, that they could take your email and um, trade it to someone else, to an advertiser, and that's what ends up happening. That's why you still get spam emails, right? Or it could have been that Target somehow, some way, they got hacked because Target did get hacked at one point, um, and a lot of other retailers as well. But that's how they get around that. That's why you still get spam emails, even if you did not sign up to receive emails from a particular company or retailer or what have you, right? So, um, give me a minute here. I'm gonna bring up my inbox, and we're gonna go to my spam folder, and I'm gonna show you some spam emails. We got about 10 minutes left in the presentation, so we'll go over that real quick. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I will answer your questions. All right. So pull this up here. Actually, all right. So here, this is my Gmail inbox. Specifically, I'm in the spam folder. So, um, fortunately, a lot of companies over the years knew how annoying spam emails were becoming. So, they can't necessarily block the email because there's just too many email addresses out there, and a company can easily, once their email gets blocked, they'll just create a new email address. And so it's kind of like Gmail, Microsoft, companies like that. It's a never ending battle. They will never win. So that's why they just bothered not to even try. But what they did was implement a system where they will automatically filter spam emails. And one of the ways they do that is the customers. So if you're a Gmail user and you're getting an email, you can actually report to or send that email to Gmail. They have a button now to report it as spam, and Google will investigate. If their investigation determines that that email is spam, they will flag that email as spam for everybody. Now, with that being said, sometimes uh, emails that are legit end up in the spam folder, right? Because email, the way their system is set up, companies also have to let Google know that their email is legit, and so Google won't automatically um, mark it as spam. So it works both ways. Google will investigate only if they're told. However, the company has to tell Google as well. And a lot of companies don't, or they probably did, and Google just hasn't gotten around to unmarking it as spam. Okay. So, what I'm going to show you is an email that I received that went to my spam folder that I know is from a legit company, but they're not sending it, it's not directly coming from them. They're sending it through a third party to get around the whole, uh, me opting out of having them send me emails. So, this email here from the team, this is from Short Stack, their IT company, right? Now, uh, in the name for the email, it says Team Short Stack, and then it says the team at shortstacklab.com. Now, that is an email address, but that is not the email address that it's coming from. The email address that it's coming from is this campaign-mail-1.com, right? So technically, ShortStack is not sending it directly. They're using a third party to send this email indirectly, but on their behalf. And that's how they can get around um, uh, you know, any type of lawsuit or anything like that, right? That's just a trick that they use. But Google, either somebody reported it or this email address through Google's filters deemed it as spam. Google is automatically marking emails that come from campaign-mail-1.com as spam. But I know that this email is a legit company because I've had interactions with them. So I know where this email is coming from. So it's I don't want the email. It's technically not spam, but at the same time it is because it's unwanted. Um, but it's safe. I say that to say, since I'm familiar and I know what this company is, this is a safe email. Now, when you do get emails like this, whether it's in your spam folder or whether it gets sent directly to your inbox, emails like this should have the option to unsubscribe. So in order to unsubscribe, what you have to do is, in most cases, scroll down to the bottom of the email, and they should have a link that you can click on to unsubscribe. Just like this one here, they have a link that I can unsubscribe. Now, once I unsubscribe, I should not get any emails from them at that point. Okay, shouldn't get any more emails from them unless they change their means. But once I unsubscribe, that is enough. Short Stack shouldn't send me any emails at all. It shouldn't matter whether they go through another third party. I should not be getting an email. They should be actually taking my email out of all of their email lists. You hope and pray that they do that, right? But that's one way to prevent getting email sent to you. Here in Gmail, just scroll back up to the top of the email. See, it has a button here to report not as spam. So if I report it not as spam, any emails that come after this will go to my inbox without any problem. Now, I'm going to show you an email. Where are they? So here's an email that I got recently, back in June, from Jason Dies. I have no clue who that is, right? But clearly it's a person. It may be a person, first and last name. So I'm just curious, right? It doesn't have a subject. I'm just curious what this email might be, right? So go ahead and click on the email. Now, when you do get spam emails, it's safe to click on the email. All right. Nothing at this point is going to get infected. Nothing should happen. This email is safe to click and look at. The issue comes when you click on any links or download any attachments, right? So I'm already familiar with this email. It definitely is spam, and I'm going to show you how to identify things you can look at to identify this as spam. So right off the bat, right, the name I'm not familiar with, right? So under normal circumstances, I would not click on this email at all. And that's probably the best way to avoid getting any type of malware or making a mistake of downloading an attachment. Just don't open the email. Just let it be. All right? Let it be, delete it. That's one of the best defenses against spam email. Just delete it. It's not going to hurt you to delete it. You can report it if you want, but that's not going to do much because the people behind it, they're just going to create a new email address and try to send you spam again, right? So for me, my experience, the name, I don't recognize it. I'm going to delete it, okay? But just for the purposes of showing you how to identify a spam email, I went ahead and opened the email. So there was no subject, which raised my eyebrow. But there's also nothing in the body of the email, but there is an attachment. Okay, Gmail does scan email attachments to see if they have any malware embedded in them. And if they do, you will get a warning when you do click into the email that has an attachment. So there's nothing malicious about this, or there's nothing malicious attached to this attachment. However, still, I'm not going to download it. I am going to click on it to open it up to preview it, right? Because that's still, in a lot of ways, safe to do, since it's already been scanned and there's nothing malicious attached to it. But we still don't want to take any chances. So open up this email, this attachment. From quick glance, it looks like a invoice from Geek Squad, right? So for myself, having worked Geek Squad, I know this did not come from Geek Squad. It doesn't. And that's for me because I know I actually worked for Best Buy for 15 years. I know what their emails look like. I know what their invoices look like, right? But to someone who may not have the experience of working at a Best Buy or working for Geek Squad, and get this email, one of the first things you can pay attention to, I mean, if you actually read through this, right? Hello, geeky, right? So, Geek Squad does not refer to their customers as geekies at all. All right, so that's a red flag right there. All right, now when you read through this paragraph, you're reading through and you see here invoice misspelling, right? I'll tell you this: anything that comes from Best Buy, Geek Squad, very slim chance is going to have a misspelling, and if it has a misspelling, it's not going to be that obvious. Okay, these things are these companies, they use standard templates, so every email they send out is going to look the same. The only difference is it's going to have specific customer information in the email, like your membership number and things like that. But in this email here, that's a dead giveaway is misspelling. Here they have an order ID to try to make it look authentic. Um, $349 I owe. Another red flag. I don't owe anything to Geek Squad. I've never taken anything. Actually, I've never taken anything to Geek Squad as a customer. So there's no way possible that Best Buy Geek Squad should be charging me $349 for anything, right? Even in the price, when you look at this, $349.999. Another red flag, right? Um, Now, if you're going through this and you're still not sure and you're not 100%, for whatever reason at this point, once you've gotten through this invoice, you're still not sure, check for the phone number, right? You can do a Google search for that phone number and find out if it's legit or not. So we're going to do that real quick. And we're going to Google this phone number. And if this was from Best Buy or Geek Squad, it should have, search results should have given me something Best Buy or Geek Squad, but it doesn't. So that's another red flag. This phone number doesn't give me anything attached associated with Best Buy. So at that point, it's safe to say that this email is spam. This is a fraud uh, attachment. The idea here is they want you to call the number. Pretty sure when you pick up and call, they're going to act like they're Geek Squad. They're going to ask for your information. And they're not even going to beat around the bush. They're going to ask for your credit card information right away. They're not even going to hesitate, right? And that's the purpose of this email. And I have several of these. This one's from Jerry's Bryant's. Same thing, same idea. Looks similar to one in the previous email, but notice here invoice formatted incorrectly, saying hi geek user, so on and so forth. A completely different phone number, but that's how you get tricked into clicking on these emails. See if I have another one. That's an email from a recruiter. That's Resume Wizard. Jason Scott. Nope, that's another recruiter. Okay, so here's one from Ho Angden 4629. So if you notice that the email address, again, if you don't recognize it or it just seems like just a random numbers and letters, just you can ignore that as well. Um, that's another red flag. When I read through this, I have no idea what this email is about. 4th of July T-shirts. Okay. All right. Yep. Yeah. Whatever. Um, Spam email. So this has a couple of links in it. Okay. Now with Chrome, when you hover over a link, if you look down in the lower Now, if you don't click on it, just hover. If you look down in the lower left-hand corner, it'll give you a link preview. Okay. So again, my trained IT eye. So when I hover over shop now, it says azureprint.com. So that could be a legit website. Um, it also has HTTPS. So that means it's a secure website. So it could be legit. Could be, right? But I'm not going to take any chances because you don't have to, right? And when I hover over, click here to unsubscribe. Again, my IT eyes, this is a Google form. So they're asking you to click on this link to go to a Google form, which potentially should be safe. But again, you're not familiar with this company, you don't know where this email came from, so don't even bother um, clicking on the link. Okay. So again, check the email, make sure the email address looks legit. If you don't know who it's from, ignore it, delete it. Um, Look through the email, check to see if there are any misspellings. Uh, if there are attachments, Google, like I said, Google does filter the attachments and scans them for any malicious um, malware. If it is, they will actually give you a warning um, that is malicious. Um, and also, again, links. If you're unfamiliar, don't click on the link. All right. And I'm going to say this, possibly the best defense, even if you don't want to go through the hassle of having to look for all those identifiers, like the email address looks crazy, misspellings, attachments that you don't know what they are, simply delete the email, go about your business. That is the best defense, right? So that email from Jason, I'm going to delete it. It's gone. Go about your business. Have a nice day. That is the best advice I can give you. Um, but that will bring us to the end of this live presentation. So if you have any questions, concerns after the fact, you can email me. I'll bring that back up again. All of my contact information is scrolling at the bottom of your screen. My email address is what is my email address? I've got so many of them. The one you can email is John Williams at infsolutions or socialsolutions.com. That's my business email address, my personal email address for um, business. So if you want to email me, you can. But you can also hit me up on the website, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you have any questions or concerns or you're interested in speaking further about services. Oh, got a question here. How you doing, Jamal? My son has been getting pop-ups and a couple of emails from one of his classmates at school, but he knows it's not from him. All right, cool. Good question. Glad you popped in here real quick because we're just about to end the presentation. So what's happening in that case is I talked about this early in the presentation. So what happened was somehow the hackers um, got that email, right? And if they're sending emails as your son's classmate, what you want to do is look at the email address. If the email address that they're sending from is the actual email address, then that means they have access to the classmate's inbox, right? So they have access to it. They can log in whenever they want. They're probably not going to do too much because they don't want to raise too many alarms. So they're not going to fiddle around with it, but they most certainly have access if the email address that is being sent from is the exact email address for that classmate. In that case, if it's a school email account, like if I know a lot of schools are using Google Education. If that's the case, then that administrator, the person that is the administrator of the Google education accounts at that school, needs to be made aware, and not just that classmate, but every password for every account at that school needs to be changed ASAP. All right. Yep. So yeah. So you said that is happening. Yes. So the school needs to know that that is happening. Every password, even teachers' passwords, every Google Gmail account at that school needs to be changed ASAP. Um, because having access to one email address is enough. That's all they need. Um, but you want to. The idea here is you want to make sure that everybody is covered. So yes, every password needs to be changed. And like I said, they're not going to do too much because they don't want to raise too many flags. And it's no guessing what other email accounts they have access to. Um, it's even possible that they have access to the administrator account, so the account that controls all the other accounts. But to be on the safe side, you want to report that, and then the protocol after that is to have every email address, the password changed. So yes, so that's what you want to do in that case, or in any case that happens, because that can cause a lot of problems if they get access to that. I know schools that use Google Education, um, they also use Google Drive. So any files that the school has, if they have it saved on Google Drive, they have access to that. Um, there is personal information as far as students and staff saved in Google Education, so they could also have access to that as well. If he's getting pop-ups, what exactly are the pop-ups saying? Do you know? And for anybody that's still watching, yes, it is very. If you run into that situation, please let the people that need to know, let them know right away, because things can get bad real quick. Says he needs to scan for viruses on his computer. Um, so it could. So what it sounds like is that not only do they have access to the email address, but they're also um, maybe some malware on the network as well. Um, like with the access to the Gmail with that account, they also may have access, or they will, because the Gmail account, you need a Gmail account to even use a Chromebook. So having access to the Gmail also gives you access to the Chromebook as well. Um, so they could have installed cookies um, in the browser that is causing these pop-ups as well too. But um, they have infected uh, those accounts, those computers. So yeah, and you know, again, they're not going to raise any red flags. Um, Now, also too, I have seen this because a lot of students, they do use those Chromebooks to play things like Roblox and things like that, or they'll go to websites that have like games on them and things like that, because you can't install, well, you really can't install anything on a Chromebook, but you can access games via website. It's also possible too that when they've gone to certain websites that have cookies on them, some of those cookies may be malicious, and those cookies get installed inside the Chrome browser. So as long as those cookies are there, they are going to cause pop-ups. They're cookies that get installed in a browser that act as gateways, so that once you have that cookie installed in the browser, what ends up happening is that cookie allows other malicious content to um, reach you through the browser. So the Chromebook itself physically is fine. It probably doesn't have any malware on it, which is kind of hard to do since everything is based through the browser. But the chances are there's probably cookies um, that are installed in the browser that are infected, and that happens a lot as well too. Yes, but definitely let the school know, and also too. Um, if that's not the case, if they find out that nobody, well, even if it wasn't the case, something like this, if the person who's in charge is worth their weight, they'll just go ahead and change everybody's passwords. Um, but yes, update the admin. Like I said, if they're worth their weight, they're just going to go ahead and change everybody's passwords without question. They should get on that right away. Also, to another precaution they're probably going to take, since it's a Chromebook, they're probably just going to have everybody or show everybody how to wipe a Chromebook, which is fairly easy. It's a simple thing to do. Wipe the Chromebook so that way all those malicious cookies and everything get wiped as well too. But outside of that, that's about the most they will be able to do, which are simple fixes. Simple fixes. Let's just hope and pray they don't have access to the Google Drive or the admin account, because that's where the real damage can take place. But thanks for that question. That was actually a good question, a good example of how um, you know spam emails can snowball into a very bad situation. And you are very much welcome, sir. Uh, but yep, I don't have anything else. If you have any more questions, let me know. But outside of that, I am done for the evening. I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the evening. Stay cool in this heat. It is supposed to rain tomorrow, so we are gonna get a cool down tomorrow, hopefully. And I will be back next week, next Tuesday. Next Tuesday is Tech Tuesday, so I will be online for a couple of hours doing IT consultation, answering any IT related questions that you may have. So that's all, that is free to a certain extent. But yeah, it is a free service I'll be offering on Tuesdays and every Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. And then next Thursday, I'll be doing a live stream of another topic. Haven't decided what that topic's going to be yet, but I will know and let everyone, inform everyone first thing Friday morning. But if that is it, everybody have a great evening. Enjoy your weekend. And King Ben Kingsley. I will talk offline about that. But if there's no more questions, everybody have a great evening and enjoy your weekend.